Welcome back to the Corporate Burnouts. How you doing, Mandy?
Doing so good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How was your weekend?
It was so good. So it was kind of a rainy weekend a little bit. So I was glad we had a little bit of downtime. Like I love going boating. I love all that, but sometimes I just need to like get stuff done here and do errands and it was good. We went downtown. I don't actually enjoy going downtown that much here because it's not,
Mm.
I don't know. Downtown is crazy, but we went down by the arch and they've just like redone so much of the grounds down there. And so it's really cool. And we went up to the Hilton 360. You can see straight into the ballpark, and the game was over by the time
Oh,
we got
cool.
down there. But it's just really, it's a cool place to sit outside and have a drink. And we went to the Old Spaghetti Factory downtown. Do they have Old Spaghetti Factory down by you?
No, but I've been to the one in St. Louis.
Okay, it's so good.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. We always go to the one in Chesterfield, and I've always heard that it's not as good as the one downtown. So we're like, we have to do
So
that one
we'll
again.
just
It was
go get
good.
the good one. Yeah. I love
Yeah.
that.
Hmm.
Well, I dropped my kids off by the water for a church camping trip, which everyone in my entire life has said, how, right now, how could you let them go to that? And with all of the crazy flooding in Texas and the sad tragedies that have occurred recently, I have a lot of anxiety in finding out that they got a lot of rain throughout the night and now they are flooded in. They're not in any danger. It's fine, but they are definitely in for a couple of days, but no more rain expected. I'm getting all of the sweaty pics this morning. So,
But oh my gosh,
yeah.
especially it's got to be so humid,
Oh, when we dropped him off, I was like, this, like, gotta go. Don't touch
thick.
me. No
Yeah.
hugs. I don't like that. But I just refuse to live in fear. I don't want to teach my
Mhm.
kids to live in fear. Crazy things have been going on recently. And, it's, to me, it's kind of like 9/11. Like, I didn't stop flying. We had to
Mhm.
keep living. And
Yeah.
I want them to do the same. And even if it, causes a little bit of anxiety, I think we all have to kind of put one foot in front of the other and really think about those people that went through the tragedies, but not stop our lives in fear. So
Yeah. But
they
yeah,
are
that's
camping it up.
difficult. That's difficult when you're afraid of rain, because it's
Yeah.
just so close to home now.
Yeah. Thankfully, they're not on a river. It's by a lake, and they're a good ways up on the hill away from the lake. So, other than, the windy roads in and around the state park, that's the only, when I say they're flooded in, there's water going over the roadway that they can't like walk and get through or even drive. They probably could. It's probably not too bad.
Mhm.
But there's a little trapped right now, but they're gonna be there till Thursday anyway, so who cares?
Yeah. All right. Well, prayers for them to
The
still have a good time.
kiddos. Well, speaking of kiddos, from a generational perspective, I don't think we're really going to target the teenagers of the world, but we're going to have a generational conversation today. And I'm kind of excited about it because I think that they get a bad rap. And it might be for cause in some
Yeah.
ways, but also in others, like, I think maybe I'm just pissed because they haven't figured out.
Yeah. So I love this conversation about Gen Z and the workplace because uh, they target millennials hard, Gen Z. Their war on
Yeah, they don't
millennials
like us.
is like our war on boomers, right? It's just
Yeah.
they have big judgments about us, and then in return we've all judged Gen Z for their ridiculousness in the way that they handle jobs. When we really dig into it and talk about it, it's like, have they figured it out? Even though it looks like they're lazy, it looks like they're,
Entitled.
too, yeah, entitled and picky. It's like they might be onto something for real.
Yeah.
So I think that Gen Z gets a bad rap, right? They're too sensitive, they're job hoppers, they're all of these things, they're lazy, but I think that they might be getting it right. It might be an unpopular opinion. Obviously,
Well,
people have opinions about this.
I think it's an unpopular opinion depending on the holder of said opinion, and it's a generational thing.
It definitely is a generational thing, just like we have always said that the boomers are this or like there's generational wars all over the place and shots are fired at millennials all the time for being the
Yeah.
worst generation. And I just feel like when it comes to work, I don't know if we were lied to, we were just given the information that other people had, which was to go get a job and be loyal to it and stay until you retire, right? And don't rock the boat and don't be asking for too much and don't be a job hopper. I mean, I have admitted on this podcast that I had judged people for being job hoppers,
I
but
did too.
they're making so much more money than me, and more respect and everything.
Yeah, I think that we've had opinions about the specifically the job hopping aspect for so long. We were trained to find your home, stay there, be humble, be grateful for what you get, and that you have a job. And the the people that raised us and the people that are raising Gen Z have experienced a completely different workspace. And therefore, they're learning different things through it. And I they do have it figured out. I was scared to job hop. I was scared to leave. Number 1, because I was at a really good company and I really did want the company and take care of, so I didn't wanna lose that, jump ship and go somewhere that wasn't gonna be as good. But I also was worried, like, what does it say about me that I'm quitting, that I'm leaving? Like, loyalty was drilled into my brain, and I think that Gen Z has that same loyalty, but it's to themselves, not to any company, and it might actually serve them better in the
It
long
is going to serve them better. And while, I mean, all day long, you can watch the TikToks of people making fun of interviewing a Gen Zer or something. Or have you seen those where they're just
Yep.
like show up and on their vape and just with the like Gen Z stare where they're like, do you hear me? Like, is this Zoom
Yeah.
working? And we do need to get into the Gen Z stare because that is very interesting right now. But it's like, yeah, there are things where I'm not going to agree that they're the best workforce that we have out there, but they are kind of paving the way a little bit and they're breaking the rules about the things that we were told and they are figuring out work-life balance. They're
Yeah,
they're
and they're
figuring it out.
intolerant of bullshit, right? Like, I think they get a bad rap for being sensitive, like the sexual harassment stuff, and there's so many workplace dynamics that they're like, "I'm not doing that." But they shouldn't, and they shouldn't be expected to. And I think that, like I said, based on who raised you and the generation that that person was in and came from, really shapes that because as a mom, I will tell you, let's just say that I was a Gen Xer or even a baby boomer that dealt with certain levels of crazy toxicity or the sexual harassment stuff. Like they were conditioned to tolerate a situation that then they go home and say, "You will never do this. Do not ever let somebody tell you you're not good enough. Do not let anybody tell you that you have to do XYZ to succeed. You are good enough." And so they walk into the workplace going, "I don't have to do that. I'm not going to put up with this." And
No.
then people are like, "What? Excuse me? Like, who do you think you are? I'm
Mm.
self-respecting
Yeah,
human
I
is who
have
I
boundaries.
am."
Well,
Yeah.
and the thing is that I think that, I mean, obviously, here we go. First time on this podcast talking about boundaries.
Yep. Always going to be a thing for us.
Well, and I think that some people don't think that young people should be able to set boundaries, right?
Yeah.
And I think that a very young person can set boundaries with their parents, but
Yeah.
I think that in the workplace, it's just not as respected that a young person sets boundaries. But this is the first generation who truly knows how to set boundaries. And
Yeah,
maybe
I
it's
think
not
they don't know
handled
any other
completely
way.
correctly. I don't know, but they're doing it. They're
Yeah.
setting the boundaries that we didn't set.
And that's the part I think that's what people are pissed about, right? Like that's the part where it's like, who do you think you are? But you're just mad because you didn't figure out
Hmm.
how to advocate for yourself in that way. And I have. And it
Hmm.
really is okay.
But it is so much of that. It's the same thing that we've seen a bunch of times over is you should have to pay the dues that I paid. And I don't believe that, right? I think that you should have to work hard,
Yeah.
like while you're supposed to be working. I think that good work ethic is very important, but I don't think you should have to, like, let's just say with the job that we had, right?
Hmm.
We had 4 markets. We traveled 4 to 7 days a week. We did all of these things. Now, if they change that job and they say, you get to go home every night, I would not be like, that's some fucking bullshit. I'm calling bullshit because
Yeah.
they should have to do it like I did. It's like, no, it's evolving and they're figuring out how to make this a job that has longevity because you're not burned out from traveling all the time,
Yeah,
right?
and
But
and
they're
quite honestly, it is getting to that point. Like they have so many coaches now that are one market coaches that don't have to travel all over Timbuktu to get the job done because the longer the role has been in place and the more it is needed, they've created that need, the more there's a budget for it, the more there's a demand for it. So these coaches are getting smaller markets where they really are getting to stay in their own bed. And maybe not all the time, but
but I mean, at
much
least
more
more.
than we did. And it's like part of the situation is, especially for me, was I lived 3 hours away from the market that I supported. If I had lived in the Dallas area, I could have been at home in my bed most
So
nights,
much more. Mhm.
so much more. So there's some shared responsibility there, but as it has evolved, it's like I'm not bitter that these people get to do it in a healthier way than me. I'm glad they're making more money than I did when I started because they are owed that. I was, and it's not their fault I didn't get it. Uh,
No.
they're being paid fairly and appropriately. They're getting a quality of life that makes a heck of a lot more sense. And like everybody wins. There's
Yeah.
no point
The
in
company
wasting your
is
time and benefit.
getting
Yeah,
people who are in the job for longer because half of that job is just building trust and building relationships, and you don't want that to turn over, right? Because you're just
right.
not going to get as big of sales out of it. And I'm glad that they have figured it out. I'm glad that they have learned and evolved. And I would never be upset with somebody who's now in the job that I didn't get it that way. I'm glad
Yeah,
that I didn't because it led me here. And if
right.
it had been too cushy, then I could have stayed forever and it still wouldn't have had the flexibility that I needed to live the life that I want to live right now.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
We might not have just seen the growth though that we did. Like a lot of the things that we say we went through things. It wasn't like,
But we did.
horrible, but
Yeah.
we did experience things that led us to this point, and I'm grateful for the growth. I'm grateful for the mindset shift. I'm grateful for the path that it put me on to be able to be here right where I'm at and really really appreciate all that it actually means instead of just having it, you know,
Yeah.
because that changes things.
Yeah, I just want for somebody to listen to this episode and go, I've been taking it out on
These
people.
poor kids.
Yeah, and not just kids, but other millennials or whatever
Yeah,
who got here after you and they don't have to deal with the same bullshit because you fought for it or they're fighting for it themselves right now. I don't love that. And we've had guests, I mean specifically, we were talking with Heather last week about that there are just mean people in the office who just want you to suffer like they suffered and the toxicity of all of it. It's like, let's not take that out on this new generation of workers just because they're setting boundaries, right?
yeah.
Just because they are making change in their own way.
I completely agree. And I think that Gen Z is also really picking up on the working smarter, not harder. There's something that Heather said last week that really resonated with me when it came to the younger workforce. She was talking about how she needs to understand a process so that she can determine what steps she can cut out to make it
Mhm.
more efficient to get to the end result faster. And in my brain while she was talking, I was thinking, so you cut corners. I don't like that. That's not how I'm programmed, right? Like you have to
Mhm.
go through the steps. Every step has a need, every step has an importance, but sometimes it doesn't. You're just doing things the way that it's always been done. And once upon a time, there might have been a need for every single step. But now, especially in this day and age with technology and just the evolution of the workforce and the way that corporate America works, if you can get there faster and you're getting the same results, that's better. And I think that, the younger talent that you bring in, specifically this Gen Z generation that we're talking about, they have that same mindset that Heather does, where they're like, how can I do this more efficiently? I don't have to work 60 hours. How can I get this amount of work done, focus on the output, and apply that to a
Mhm.
regular work week and do that unapologetically? I'm not
Yeah.
going to take on more just because I was able to get done this amount in a
Mhm.
shorter time period.
But it is people like that who do figure out the efficiencies. They are never the person who's like, well, this is how we've always done it. They are the opposite. Imagine how many people figured out efficiencies in the jobs that we have done
Mhm.
before we got to it.
Yep.
And otherwise, we'd just be doing it like we always did it. And so I think it's so smart. And I'm glad that there are people like that. And this generation is filled with a lot of them, right? They're going to figure out how to do things with as little effort as possible. And so it looks
It
lazy.
looks lazy.
Hmm.
Absolutely,
And
and
hmm
I don't
but
think that's what
it
it
is,
is.
yeah, it is what it is. But I watch, so Samantha is like this, right? She is going to figure out the easiest way to do things, right? And sometimes it's like she's going to delegate it, she's going to, like whatever, but like she's going to get way more accomplished
Mm.
than I would because she's always going to figure out the easiest way to do things and her life is going to be easier because of it.
Yeah, I think they're looking for the flexibility and the autonomy to figure out how to get there in the way that suits them best, in the way that makes the most sense, in the most efficient way. And sometimes it looks a little bit, it does look lazy. I think sometimes it looks a little careless or it looks chaotic. But at the end of the day, like, I think we would be remiss to negate all of what they do bring to the table because
Mhm.
efficiency is hugely important. You
It
know,
is.
on the flip side of this, Gen Xers are known for being workaholics,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
I think it is that generation specifically that is really, really bitter about these youngins coming in, acting like they know things and, doing all this stuff, but they don't work a fraction of what I work. And it's like, I kind of want to do the Gen Z stare right back at them and go, do you hear yourself? Like, you're the idiot. Don't do
Yeah.
that to yourself. You don't
Well,
have to do that.
and it's
You don't
important
deserve
to,
it.
yeah, it's important to think about what's important, right? To Gen Zers, it seems that time is way more important to them than money. All right. And so it's going to be harder for them to make enough money because they prioritize their time. But that's something that we've been talking about for years because um I prioritized money but security because it's
Yeah.
important, when you don't have anybody to bail you out, right? It's like, I have to figure this out. But I also prioritized a career and what that was about for me, both
Mhm.
internally and what it looked like externally and all of these things. I need to have an important job. I felt important that they sent me all over the United States to coach people all the time, right? But if you look at what my personality is, it's none of those things. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I don't prioritize money or importance of how I look to other people in
Status. Yeah.
life, right? I just want quality time. If we're looking at, what are those called? The love languages, right?
Yeah.
Quality time is the most important thing to me. But I never thought about it. No one ever said, "What do you want your life to look like?" They were like, "What are you going to do for a living?" That was more the question. And it's like, I want my life to look like I travel 1 week a month and I have flexibility to be off at 3 o'clock on some days to go to swim meets and work until 10 o'clock days where I'm motivated and want to do that. And I want to be able to take full days off just for mental health days. And I want to all of it. But no one ever asked me that. I think that these kids are getting that message. They are getting the message that what do you want your life to look like? Now build your career around it. Because everyone's got to have a career or a way to make money. But it doesn't have to look a certain way just because that's what it's supposed to look like. And
Right.
I'm applauding that because I learned that too late in life, I think.
I really love that concept, determining what you want your life to look like and then shaping your career and all of where you put your energy to create that life instead of saying, what do you want your job to be? Because you're going to spend the most of your life doing it. Just flipping that question on its head
Mhm.
changes everything. It changes everything. But like when I think about specifically the Gen Z aspect of this, they are doing the same thing that we did, and they're doing the same thing that Gen X did, and they're doing the same thing that baby boomers did. You watch the people that came before you see the struggles that they have, you learn from it, and you do it a little bit differently. Are they doing everything perfectly or the right way? No, but they're adjusting the approach to solve a problem that the generation before them has, right? We have a lot of mental health issues going on and people in your 40s and 50s and like that is part of I say 40s, 50s, probably more like 30s, 40s. That is like part of what our generation is known for is identifying the fact that there is like a mental health crisis and some people are getting on board with getting treatment. Some people are getting on board with mental health days and the resources that like changing the stigma around serving your own mental health. And I think to Gen Z, they're like, yeah, you're dumb if you don't.
Yeah.
It's not a thing for us to worry about. Like we're just going to go get therapy.
Yeah, it's completely acceptable to them.
Yeah.
And so they are normalizing that. They aren't ashamed of it, and they expect their job to
Yeah.
allow for mental health to be a priority.
Yeah.
I run my company that way,
Uh-huh.
right? Where I'm like, listen, mental health days have to happen. You know, like I'm not going to push you if you're like, I'm off the rails. It's like, I'm not going to push you further off the rails. Fucking take a day off, or a week
Yeah.
or a month. It has to be right. But not all corporations are going to allow that. So now they're looking at these younger folks and saying all they care about is mental health. They don't care about the bottom line. And it's like, they're here to take care of themselves first. And you have to get on board with that and take care of them, and then they'll take care of you. It just has to be a full mindset
Yeah.
switch, right? And I feel like I'm going to bat for Gen Z right now when I know that they are making a lot of mistakes in this. I know that
But we
it's not
all
perfect.
do,
Yeah.
right? Like our no workforce generation has done it perfectly. And in the future, no one will. That's just the nature of being human. And we're just doing it differently and sitting in judgment while they try it a different way in a way that is working for them that didn't work for us. But they're going to find that some of the ways it worked for us, it's not going to work for them because of a different approach. So
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's like we talked about on, I think it was last week with Heather. We were talking about the ladies in the office that are so mean because that's all it is. This is a generational difference, and there's judgments being thrown because you didn't have to go through all that I went through. And I think part of that is from an education standpoint too. Like, and I don't mean like formal education, but there's so many things now that you can just go look up on YouTube or ask AI. There are so many more resources to have an education on how to get something accomplished at your fingertips
Uh-huh.
immediately. And those mean ladies in the office had to go to class to write shorthand and they had to, there's so many things that from a skill set perspective that they had to go and learn, even if they were only going to need it a tiny bit for the rest of
Yeah,
their
and not
lives.
in a 90-second YouTube video, right?
Right,
They
to just
learn
get it
so
done and
fast,
move
these
on to the
kids.
next task. And I think there's a lot of jealousy and bitterness wrapped up in this judgment that
Mhm.
makes me laugh, but also is like, guys, stop. You're making us look like the problem. Seriously.
Yeah, well, and it's the reason that they're fighting back, right? They're like,
Yeah.
I can only see it this way. I can only see that I am doing it the way that feels right to me and that I'm seeing work for other people my age. And when I am judged by these people who didn't figure out how to do it right, I feel defensive now.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to lash out like, y'all are old. Why
Yeah.
didn't you figure this out? Don't blame me.
Mhm.
And then it just makes the war harder,
Yeah,
bigger.
and they're challenging the status quo, right? The like, what? Tell me about this policy.
Mhm,
I get the rule, but like, why is it here?
mhm.
Why do we need this? Is it even relevant, or is it counterproductive to what we're trying to accomplish? And by doing that, there's a lot of people that put a lot of time, effort, and energy into thinking through what that looks like. And when you challenge it, you step on toes of other people's, at least what they feel like is their intellectual property and it's the output of
Well,
their
and it's
work.
what I built. It's what
Right.
I helped build. And now you're saying that that might be stupid.
Yeah.
That's hurtful to me, sure. But also, everyone needs to be open minded to everyone that they work with because someone's brain works different than yours. And if you're open minded, you can see if we need to make a change.
And
Now,
I just
you
think
don't
that
always
business
need to make a change, right?
right. Right. I
But
was going to say, I think business is just always evolving. And if you are leading a company and you're not open to the process of evolution, you're going to be left in the dust anyway, whether it's
oh,
on, the
100%.
product and consumer side of things or on the employment side. Like you're already losing. So, when you go into a room and you figure out with the product that you're trying to sell or your service that you're going to provide, like how do you do that best for your client? You have to take that same mindset into the room of hiring people and the work experience that you're providing for these people to say, what is it that they really need and how can I get the best out of them? And it's a different conversation with the younger workforce.
Mhm.
And we as the employer, on this side of things have to be a little bit more flexible, a little more understanding and go, huh, that way's different, but it's
Yeah.
working for them and I need the most out of them. So that's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
It makes sense. You just kind of have to flip it.
Yeah, something that I am seeing too with Gen Z is that they are, as a whole, more liberal. And I think that it's rubbing a lot of people the wrong way, especially older conservatives
Huh?
within the workplace. And they're calling out DEI and climate and transparency and social responsibility and basic human rights within a workplace. And it's not always received well. And they're like, well,
Mm-hmm.
these kids are all libs. And it's like, hang on, because we're just talking about taking care of people in the workplace. We're
Yeah.
trying to get everyone on board with that. It's not just about the people who have worked here forever. It's not just about the certain races or the certain whatever. It's
Yeah.
like we need to be responsible. They want to be proud of who they work for. They
Mm-hmm.
want to, because they can't stick around if they're feeling any sort of way. They will just leave
They'll
because
just
it
go.
doesn't
Yeah.
feel right.
And
And
rightfully so.
the vibes are off, and they're like, I can't do this. So instead of just leaving, they're trying to have a conversation with you, but it's not going over well in a lot of
Mm-hmm.
situations. And it's another check mark in the cons list of hiring Gen Z. And it's like, let them challenge you. You
Yeah.
could
I,
learn something and get better.
I think a lot of it is like, they just want people to be good people, right? And they
Yeah.
wanted to
And
be
just
treated
respect
fairly.
others.
And a lot of those like elder conservatives that you're talking about, they're looking at things from a very business perspective, from a numbers game, and they're looking at it based on history of how we got to where we are and what things worked. And, I mean, to be real, when you look at corporate America and how it's structured and how it's shifted over the last 10, 20, 30 years, like they might have gotten there, but they didn't do it without a lot of sacrificing a lot of people and their quality of life and sometimes
Hmm.
their life and sometimes their livelihood. Like I wouldn't say that it got there in any kind of ethical way. And I think that
Totally.
tied in with I want to do work the way that I want to do it and I don't want to be taken advantage of and I'm not going to sacrifice my autonomy. They also are prioritizing ethics as well. And they're holding people's feet to the fire to be like, can we just be good people and treat each other like good people? The Gen Z stare of it all cracks me up because it is probably the nicest way of saying, "Are you an idiot?" And
Yeah.
do I have to say
No,
it out
it's the
loud
judgiest
without
look
saying it
ever.
all? It's like
Yeah.
Paisley was saying something the other day. She was
Mhm.
somewhere getting a coffee beverage or whatever, and it was like a blended coffee. And somebody asked, like, "Does this blended coffee have ice?" And they went, it's blended with ice, yes, but that stare says 1,000 words that is the kindest way of saying, "Think about what you said and
Yeah.
then decide if you need to ask that question again." And I
Yeah.
think that I'm gonna put that tool in my toolbox because
Yeah.
I like it. I like
Yeah.
the Gen
The
Z
big
stare.
pause. They always talk about the
Yes.
millennial pause. It's the same except for it's a stare. I think that it's hilarious. But for some,
Oh,
Gen Z stare, some that I've seen, make it look like they're the stupid one.
mhm.
Okay. And that's how I've received it several times. I'm like, do you understand what I just said? Like literally just asking, like, while you're ordering something at a Starbucks and you say something and they look at you like, I don't know what you just said. Right.
Right.
But they're the ones judging me, but I am in turn going, did you hear me?
Yeah. Where where are you?
Yeah. Like, did you just zone out? And so it's a real barrier right now for the
Yeah.
generations with their
I just think it's so freaking funny.
it's too
And
much.
TikTok is just highlighting it in all the most entertaining
Yes,
ways that are
they are. TikTok
fan
is a
freaking
savior.
tastic. At the end of the day, I think that Gen Z is like changing the workplace just like every generation before them changed the
Mhm.
workplace. And we are at a very interesting time where, there are still some boomers in the workplace, probably not very many.
Not as many.
Not as many. Still a lot of Gen Xers, but they're kind of phasing out. The millennials are just loud and proud, but there's a lot of Gen Z, and I don't even want to get into like what is this like alpha generation going to bring to the table, because I think I might be more scared of them than the
Yeah,
Gen Zs.
that generation, I'm a little bit nervous. Like,
Mhm.
are we going to have doctors? And you know what I mean? Like, are we going to have enough people who want to be that professional? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
really be their job. But we'll get there when we get there. AI might take care of that for us anyway. Who
Yeah.
knows?
It'll all happen, it'll play out. And I think that supply and demand is a real thing, even in the workforce. Like, I can remember when I was graduating high school, it was like the big thing was like going into nursing. We needed nurses like nobody's business. And then all of a sudden, everyone that I know is going to nursing school. And it was like, it was the hot thing to do
Mhm.
because of the need, right? And like they were being paid well and they were getting crazy signing bonuses. And I think that will continue to happen with the workforce. There's a concern that, are we going to have people that want to work in plumbing and be
Yeah, all
electricians,
the
like the
trades.
trades of the world? Like we have to have those. And those are things that AI really can't take away from us. So
Not
this
unless we get full
generation, like
robots.
in
Yeah.
this alpha generation, those kids that take a trade route are probably pretty brilliant, because we're going to end up having to pay them really well to do it because there's not a lot of people that want to.
Yeah, and it'll be good for them. Obviously, those are the jobs where you have to go in person and do the job. But there are enough kids, and I mean, I could talk about going to college versus not going to college versus learning a
Yeah.
skill versus I could talk about it all day long. But I think that Gen Z is starting to realize that it's always been you graduate high school and then you go to college. But I think that people are starting to realize that is how you get to corporate.
Yeah. But you
But
don't have to go there.
no, you
But you
don't
don't
have
have to go
to.
there.
You don't
And
have to.
that's a perfect example of Gen Z is looking at what the millennials did and going, "Oh, we don't have to do that." The millennials
Skip that
looked
step.
ahead and said, "Oh, college is non-negotiable. We're going to go because you kind of have to have a degree to do anything worthwhile if you want to make money." And
Mhm,
now freaking everybody has a degree. So it's like, what does it mean? And then you're saddled with thousands of dollars of student debt, and
mhm.
you're not really making any more money for it. So it's not offsetting itself. So this next generation is like, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to do that.
Well,
It'll be
and it's
very interesting to see
yeah,
what formal education looks like in the future.
it's in your face on TikTok too. I watched this video, I guess it was a few weeks ago, maybe over Memorial Day weekend, and these girls did this dance for their parents in the living room, and they said, just like old times, all college graduates that can't find a job and are back at mom and dad's teaching each other dances to perform for the family. And it's like there's so much proof out there that the college degree. So this is the worst job market since the Great Depression, is what they're
Yeah.
saying. And these people are going to school and they've been told you go to school and then you get a job, and it's not that easy. And they're a little pickier because they
Right.
need work from home. They need all of these things that make their job more flexible.
Okay, but
What are you
hold on a
laughing
second. Hold the freaking phone. Talk to me about the article. I know you listened to Girls Gotta Eat, and they were talking about the needs of Gen Z in the
Yes.
workplace.
Oh my
Tell me
God.
about this, because they are a little picky and they're getting a little bit bold with what they're
Yes.
picking.
So over the weekend, I was out running around and I was listening to an episode of Girls Gotta Eat. And if you haven't listened to Girls Gotta Eat, it's a um, sex and relationships podcast. It's been on for like 8 years or something. We've been listening to it for a really long
Yeah.
time. And these girls are just hilarious. These women are
Mhm.
hilarious. They were saying that there's an article on the New York Post or somewhere, and we'll link it in the show notes. I don't know if this is real, but it was hilarious. So Gen Z wants to have break rooms or some sort of designated area to be able to have sex at the office.
In
That
the workday.
yeah, that got me because if you have been working from home and then you have to go to the office, you know that sometimes there's fun at home in the middle of the day. Who
Yeah.
knows? I don't, again, know if this is real, but they would probably want that. I mean, this is a generation that grew up with their parents watching Grey's Anatomy, and they're like, it's normal
Yeah,
in the
like
on-call room to just have
right.
sex.
Yeah. Why are we not having sex in all call rooms? Is this really not what it looks like to work
Because
here?
they're just lining up what they want their life to look like. And they're like, that is fun, awesome. But two, it has been shown as kind of glamorous to them. And they're like, and they don't have the shame that
It
we
brought an
were.
expectation, like
Yes.
the way that we put those things out there in our forms of entertainment and put that in front of them, they thought that's what going to work was gonna look like, and then
Uh-huh.
they just got completely let down when they got there, and
Yep.
there's no sex closets.
No.
I mean, I don't
And
know
I
about
mean,
you, but
technically,
back in the day,
yeah.
they definitely had what they called the boom boom room, and you knock before you go in. I never, like, had any personal experience with that or even knew of anybody who did, but I heard it talked about.
Yeah. But on TV, it's like they're having sex in stairwells and in broom closets and
Yeah,
all of
like
this stuff, bathrooms, but that wasn't really going on mm, in a office setting everywhere because there was enough
mhm.
shame around sex, but this generation does not have that. They don't have that
No.
shame. They're
I
like,
feel like
let's
they
just
don't have
do
a
it
lot
at
of
work.
shame in general, and that's a
No.
big difference for them.
I wonder what it'll be like though for them in the real world, okay? Because there are Gen Zers up to like I think 27 years old now,
Like that.
28 years
Oh,
old or
here.
something. And but they're still doing so much online, right? They still
Mhm.
communicate so much not in person, but online, and I wonder if being out in the real world will kind of bring that shame in because they have to actually say things to people's faces. I don't know. This is a fun conversation for me because
It really is.
I love the energy of this generation. I think that they're just as judgy as the other generations. The only thing that I worry about is that we're defending them. We're saying the good things that they are doing, right?
Listen, and that's the
But
whole thing, is it's like looking at it from the other perspective. We all know the reasons that, they're annoying, but it's because they're different. And
yeah,
I
they're
think that it
different.
can be a positive thing too. So while we have only really focused on the positives, we're still millennials. We're not one of them, but I want to be a person who advocates for the future generations because that's the world
Mhm,
that my children are going to be adults in. So I
mhm,
want it to be successful. I want to see the good and I want them to learn from the mistakes that they are making now to make that better. But I think that
yeah.
if we were to all look more positively to the younger generation, especially in the workforce, they're going to make mistakes and we can help them along the way, but we can also learn from them too that maybe they're not getting it all wrong, you know?
They're definitely not getting it all wrong. Just what I would love to see more if you are a Gen Zer and you are listening to this, thank you for listening to these old ladies talk about corporate. But just be professional in the best way that you know how. And you will get more if you come at people with respect and make sure that you've done your research about what you're talking about because I think that it's always going to be harder for a younger generation to be respected. And if you are coming at someone with true curiosity to try and figure out a way to make a change, that's always going to go over better than this is stupid. This is stupid. Why are we doing this? Right. So just figure out the best ways. Ask AI, how should I tell my boss these things? Because y'all are on the right track. Just make sure that you're coming at it from the right angle
Yeah.
is my advice because you
I
can make
agree.
change and you can help yourselves and everyone who comes after you to to have a better work situation and maybe corporate structure wouldn't run your life like it does so many. So
I'm curious too,
definitely
just from
encourage.
a language perspective, generational. Like, what do you think this podcast would be called if we were Gen Z? If a Gen Z person were a host of this podcast, what would they call it? Because all I can hear is my kids saying, "I'm cooked."
Well, and that I was just gonna like search AI and just say if I was a Gen Zer, what would I name this podcast? But yeah, cooked in
Something like
corporate.
that. Yeah.
I don't know.
Cooked
I
in
don't know.
corporate. That's funny. Well,
That's
this
still
is
probably
all,
too millennial of a they'd be like, "You
yeah.
used it wrong."
Yeah, you didn't, you can't say it like that, Mom. You're so cringy. Fine. I know I'm old. Well, I think this is all very, very interesting. And if there is a take on, the Gen Z in the workplace that we did not discuss or something that really gets under your skin or that you really respect them for, definitely let us know. We want to continue this conversation. Check us out on socials. And let's see what more we can uncover. But with the mindset of like, let's help grow them forward. Let's not just cut each other down because that's not going to help the future of the world. And the world is a scary, scary place right now without having to worry about that. So,
I love all of that. Please
all
tell us
right.
your secrets.
Yeah,
Go to the corporateburnouts.com and tell us your secrets. We want to share them. Just go do it right
I
now.
know. I kind of want some like generationally diverse secrets, actually. I think that
Mhm.
could be really fun.
Yeah. Maybe
If
we
it's
need Gen
relevant,
Z
let us know.
secrets. They don't care. Burn it down. Send them
Yeah,
to Gen Z. We
seriously,
want we
Gen
want to
Z
read them.
secrets. That's so great. Well,
Awesome.
thank you guys for sticking around with us. Mandy had fun, and we will talk to you guys next week.
Bye. Thanks.